Good morning, everybody. Welcome to class this morning. Early on a Monday morning, here we are ready for another week of CTI 110, Web Programming and Database Foundations. So your current module, Module 6, was a 2-week module. It consisted of last week and this week. And it's our last HTML, our last markup and scripting, or our last markup module, rather. Shouldn't say markup and scripting, because we'll be doing scripting when we get to Module 9. But it's our last markup module. So before we get into talking about CSS and stuff like that next week, I just kind of want to make sure that we're all on the same page and we understand HTML well enough to where we can go into CSS ready to go and ready to build and ready to work. So that's the big goal of kind of what we're doing with this 2-week module here. So what I wanted to do today is I wanted to just kind of build a site just using all of the markup tools that we know so far, just so we can have this understanding of what we're working on and how we do all that. So that's kind of the basis of what we'll be doing today. We'll be building a site. So at the end of this, you should have little questions. You know, I won't say no questions. I'll say little questions, maybe. The majority of you probably should have no questions because I think we've covered everything fairly well in the last 2 modules, but we'll see how it goes. If I'm being honest, the next module probably should have been the 2-week module. You know, in retrospect, that makes the most sense. But this is the first time that we're running this material in this format. You know, this is new material for us, as I've mentioned before, so, you know, maybe we'll change it for the future. We'll just see how it goes, right? So we've got a lot to do. So we're just going to build a site, and I got this idea since, you know, we're coming up on Halloween. Halloween's this coming Sunday. Thought we might make a little pumpkin carving contest site. And that'll be what we do with that. So what I think we'll do is we'll just kind of build our pumpkin carving contest site. We'll use everything that we kind of know so far in terms of our skeleton, in terms of our containers, in terms of our paragraphs and headings, and using media and all that kind of stuff. You know, we'll use a list, we'll use some multimedia, we'll make a link. We'll have a lot of fun with it. And I think we actually might build a site that's more than 1 page, just to get us used to doing that as well. So as you can see here, I am on Replit.com here, ready to build a new site. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to click to create a REPL. I'm going to select our HTML, CSS, and JavaScript Replit, which is here. Remember that if it's not showing up in your favorites for you, you can search it. And we're going to name it. We're going to call it Halloween Pumpkin Carving. And we'll just click to create that REPL. And remember, by default there, we get our HTML skeleton. Our HTML skeleton consists of 4 parts. It's our doc type, our HTML tags, our head tags, and our body tags. Now, they started putting this hello world here into our Replit body. We don't need that. So let's delete that immediately. And the next thing that we're going to change is the title. Remember that we need a title in order for our site's markup to be W3C compliant. We get our title tags in our boilerplate that Replit gives us, so we can change this to be something that is going to be pertinent to this website. So maybe it's the 2021 Halloween Pumpkin Pumpkin carving contest. Something like that, right? So we have this pumpkin carving contest, and we're going to build a site around this idea. So maybe the first thing that I want to have is I want to have some kind of image that's at the top of my page. So we're going to start out using an image. I've got a folder here with a couple little pieces of media in it that I want us to be able to use. Right, I have a little video here that we'll add in a little bit, and I have this pumpkins banner here that we'll add. So I've got our Cloudinary window open here as well. I'm going to go to my media library here at the top, and for this project, I'm going to create a new folder, and we'll call it pumpkin _ carving. We'll get that new folder, and we will double click to go in that folder. So now I'm going to start off by just dragging my pumpkin picture in here. And here it is. Now remember, one of the things that we've talked about before is that by default, when we find a picture like this, and I got this one from Unsplash, so it's in the public domain, they're usually pretty big. And if we look at this one, it's no exception. Right, like we look here, we see, okay, it's 5,331 pixels by 3,554 pixels. That's a huge picture. And if you want to get an understanding, we can just click the link here to copy the URL, just paste it in, and see exactly how big it is. Right, because if we click, that is not full size. It is downloading it. We can click it to zoom in, get our full size, and see the full size picture. That is full size, which is huge, right? So we don't want to put something that big on our site because that's way too big, right? Like if we look back here, or if we just look at it in general as we start off, right? Like it's too big. So we don't want to use something this big just because it'll take our page and blow it out, right? It'll have horizontal and vertical scroll bars everywhere, which is not ideal. So we want to shrink this down. We want to make it smaller. It's also 1.1 megabytes in file size, which if we're being kind to our users on their mobile phones, we don't want to do that either. So we can use Cloudinary here to edit our pictures for us. I'm just going to click this little, let me zoom in here. I'm going to click this little edit icon here that's on the picture to open up the edit window. And it's going to take a minute for it to come in, right? Because it is a huge picture. And I am going to want to scale it. I'm going to want to crop it. So let's start off by cropping it. Right, we can crop it on the x-axis and we can crop it on the y-axis. We can also take it down on the X and Y. And the width and height, just to make it smaller. And as we change the size and we do some cropping here, we can see our image change. I want to take it down in the Y-axis as well. This is one of the things that it's kind of hard to do from this dialog, what I want to do here. So let's reset this. And let's click this crop button right here. So now if I set that crop button there, I can come in and I can create a bounding box around the part of my image that I want to keep when I crop. So we can create a banner image just like that. And we can crop the original by clicking crop image there at the bottom. And that gives me a better image. And so now I can change the width and height by just scaling it, refreshing that preview. It's just a smaller image now. Let's do something that's 960 pixels in width. And we'll let the height scale accordingly. So if we look at this picture now, we can see it's much smaller. If we save this image, right? We'll save it to our site demo folder that we have here. We'll call it pumpkins-2. If we save this image, we can see the size of it, right? It's only 24K versus over a meg with our other ones. So this is a much more preferred size for our image. So I'm going to take this URL here, which is the same URL that I would get if I copied here. I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to add it to our site. So let's add our image tags here. That's img with our source attribute, and we'll set that equal to the link that we have in our cloud area of our picture. We'll add our alt tags. In this case, we want this to be decorative, so we will leave our alt tags empty. And our img tag is a self-closing tag. So we will just use the /greater there to end off this tag, because it's self-closing and that's the only one we need to do. So I'm going to run this. And I'm going to click this here to pop it out into a new window. It would help if we didn't typo here, SCR instead of SRC. Right? And so when we pop it out in our new window, we can see the full thing. We have a nice little banner image at the top of our site now. Now, we'll also use this site some next week as we add some CSS rules to it. I think that would be a fun thing to do, is if we just took this same site and we used it next week to make it look even nicer. Right? So we will. So we've got our image here. And if we look at our website, this is what our website looks like now. We're going to need this Cloudinary site again in just a little bit. So we'll close that out, go back to our pumpkin carving folder here. And we'll start to just add some more stuff. So let's add a heading level 1, because it's our first heading that's on the page. So with our heading level 1, it's kind of like our main heading. So I kind of wanted to explain this again, because it seems like some of you maybe didn't quite understand what we're talking about when we're talking about a main heading versus subheadings. Because I saw a lot of you in like your first projects use heading level 1, heading level 2, heading level 3, heading level 4 like that. But you don't have to use the next level of heading unless it is a subheading for the one that comes before it. Right, so if I have a primary heading, that's a H1, that's a heading level 1. Any subheading that is related to that H1 is a heading level 2. So I can have multiple heading level 2s. I can have multiple heading level 1s. Right, when I get back to a new main topic, I start back with a new heading level 1. You know, it's like writing a paper, right? Like if you've ever written a paper, a lengthy essay before where you have different headings on different topics, and then you might have subheadings under those different topics. That's the exact same function that we're talking about here. Right? When we have a heading level 1, that is our main topic. Any heading level 2s that go underneath that are subheadings that belong underneath that heading level 1. If you have anything that goes into one of those subheadings that's like a subheading, then that becomes a heading level 3. And so on and so forth, right? So this will be, we'll just put a nice heading here, 2021, pumpkin, Halloween, pumpkin, carving, contest. And we'll close that H1. So now we can see we have a nice little H1 heading here. Now we're not gonna style it yet. Like we can take all this and we can center all this up. We're not gonna be doing all that yet. We're gonna be saving that for next time, because that's the kind of thing that we're looking at in the next module. Right? Is how we add some basic CSS. We'll look at our box model, which talks about padding and margin and content and borders, and we'll look at how we use margin to center things, and we'll look at different placement techniques using different positionings, like positions position relative, position absolute, position sticky, that sort of thing. So this is going to be a pretty kind of, base level site. It's just using the skills that we've learned so far. So underneath this, what I think I'll do is I'll actually kind of treat this H1 as kind of a banner image. So maybe I can use my header semantic container here. Wrap that banner image in that. Right, and then we'll put a main here. And we'll wrap this part in that. Remember, we use these to kind of section off our site. Right, and another big thing is to kind of make sure that we're not getting our header tag confused with our head tag. These are two separate tags. Right, remember that all of the content that we want to display to our user goes in between our body tags. Like so. Right, so let's add this paragraph here. And we'll write some text in here for it. Maybe something like, welcome to the home of the 2021 Halloween pumpkin carving contest. Here you'll find information on the rules of the contest and how the contest will be judged. Thank you for participating in the Halloween pumpkin carving contest. And we'll close our paragraph tag. And so when we run this, we'll get to see our site with our paragraph in it. And we'll refresh this over here so we can see this site with our paragraph in it on the big full page, right? Since our paragraph is just text that just kind of runs and it flows to the container, it's just going to be, as wide as we make it. As much text is there, that's how much text we'll have here. One of the interesting things to kind of talk about as we prepare for next week, right, is that all of these elements, with the exception of this image here, but our H1 and our paragraph here have an imaginary box drawn around them, right? And we can see this imaginary box if we right-click and we select Inspect here. We have in this panel over here, we have this section here, which is our box model panel. And when we hover over these different parts of the box model panel, we see the different parts of the box model. And in particular, this one here in the middle is the content box. And the content box is the size of the content. And we can see that both for our H1, well, both for our paragraph, since we're on our paragraph, and for our H1, the size of that content is the entire width of the page. Even though the text here only takes up this small little part, we've drawn an imaginary box around it that spans the entire width of the page. Right, so when we start talking about the box model, this is the box that we're talking about. We're talking about all these different colors here that you can see in your Inspect palette. And we're talking about this invisible box that we can draw around these elements that are in our static block flow for our website. And we can see that our paragraph has one and our H1 has one. Now, our image is not a block level element. Now we can see if we click on our header here in our sidebar, we get that box there. Our header is a block level element. Even though it doesn't have any content in it, it's a block level element. But when we click our image here, we can see the image is only as big as the image. And that's because the image is not a block level element. And that's something that we'll talk more about next week. But having these different sized boxes and being able to manipulate the size of these boxes helps us to kind of figure things out for the future type stuff that we're doing. So let's add another little section here, and we can even do it inside of a section tag. And inside of this section tag, we can add an H2 because it is a subheading of our H1 here that is our 2021 Halloween Pumpkin Carving Contest. And we will call this the rules. We'll close that H2. And we'll give ourselves a little room to work, and we'll close this section. So now we have a semantic section that is containing the rules of our site. And we don't have the rules, or that's containing the rules of our contest. One of the best ways that we can put rules on our contest is by using a list. Right? We talked about lists last week. So we want to use a list here. And when we use a list, we want to make sure that we're using the right list in relation to the type of content that we're displaying. So we're talking about rules here. And rules don't in particular have any sort of order they need to be followed in. They just all need to be followed. So we can use an unordered list for this element. So we can use our UL tag for unordered list. And let's go ahead and close that before we forget. Goodness gracious. /UL. And now we can add list items in here based on whatever we want our rules to be, right? So each one of these is a list item. The pumpkin must totally must be carved only at the event. /li. That creates my list item. And remember, when we have these list items, they all get that circle, that disc list style, and they all have a little bit of margin that brings them in from the side of the page a little bit. And we can just make a few more rules. No other props are allowed in your pumpkin display. You may use any carving tools that you wish. Your pumpkin must be, or we'll say must not be artificial. Right, so now we have 4 rules. They're all encapsulated in list items. These list items are have all gone into this unordered list. And we have those on our page now. So if we run it, there are our rules. And if we look at it in this small window here, we can see that paragraph kind of flowing and going on more lines as we make our window smaller. Right, and then as we look at it on the big screen, we see that it's full width. And now we have our list here as well. So let's just take a quick rundown of kind of everything we've done here so far. Everything that we've included in this site. So we've used an image. That's one thing. We've used an H1 and an H2. We've used a paragraph. We've used a list. So what are some other things that we need to use? We'll need to add a link. We'll need to use our video. that we have. And I think that'll pretty much get us kind of more or less prepared for what we have here. So in order to create a link, let's create another page. This is kind of interesting because this is something we haven't done yet. So in our files panel here in Replik, I've got this little button here that says add file. We can add a file and we can call it judging.html. So now we have a completely other file in our web page. So our index is going to be the one where if we just go to the site, we go to, whatever it's called, Halloween carving contest.com or whatever. The index is going to be the root site that's going to be the one that shows up when we load our URL. The other site is a sub page, or in this case, it's just another page on our site that we can go to by using this, by using a link that's on our index. So let's build a couple links. Let's build one link that goes to that page, and let's build another link that goes to some other website. I'm going to just Google pumpkin carving tools and see what comes up here. Looks like we have pumpkin carving kits at walmart.com. I'll just click that. Seems simple enough. Big long link because I clicked on the add link. So maybe we'll just go back and find something easier, shorter. This one looks good here from HGTV. Let's check it out. Tips and tools for pumpkin carving. Looks like a pretty good article. So I'm just going to copy that URL there. We'll head back to our site. We'll add ourselves another section because this is a different part of our site. This isn't the rules. This is something else. And we'll add a paragraph into here that says something like, for tips and tricks about how to carve your pumpkin, visit, and we'll add our link here. So remember when we're adding a link, we're using our anchor tag. So that's our anchor tag. We put the destination of our link in the href attribute. So we'll set that destination equal to the link we just copied from HGTV. We'll add the target here, which is target equals underscore blank. And remember, that'll allow it to open in a new window. We'll add our greater than symbol, and we'll put the text that we want to have in our link there. So that's HGTV, pumpkin, carving, tips, and tools. And we'll close off our anchor tag. So now you can see we have that paragraph added there. Looks pretty good. And if we see that the link there is purple because we've already visited the site. It's loaded right here. So that's one link in there. Let's also put a link to this other file in here. So I'm just going to go down below this. I'm going to close this paragraph. Go down below this, add another paragraph. For information about contest judging, visit the judging page. And so the judging page is going to be the link, the text of our link. We'll wrap it in A href equals. Now, since this is all on the same site, we don't need to add target blank, and we don't need to have all this other stuff that starts the site. The HTTPS / www. All we need is the judging.html. So since it's on the same site, we don't have to worry about any of the other information there. We have a relative link here that goes to a different file that's on this same server. We'd also want it to open in the same page because we don't want all of our different pages on the same website opening in different windows because that's weird. We'll just add another link in this page that goes back to the home page. And so we'll put a \A here and a \P here. And now we can see we have our judging page linked on our site. So that's an image. That's an H1. That's an H2. Now when we go to this judging page, we can see there's no text here. We still need our HTML skeleton. Right, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this whole thing here and copy it and paste it over here. Now, I obviously don't want all the same information on here. I want it to be different information. So I'm going to remove all of this stuff here. I'm going to change 2021 Halloween Pumpkin Carving Contest to say 2021 Halloween Pumpkin Carving Judging. And I'm going to do the same thing in the title here. Or what we might do is do something like this, where we put the bar character there, which is shift and the key above your enter key. And just add contest judging to the title. So now if we run this, we see by default over here we have the home page, but if we click on the judging page, we can see we have the judging page here now. But I want to be able to get back, right, without having to click my back button. So let's add a link to the top of this page above this image. So we'll find our header here. We'll go above the image. We'll add an A, href equals index.html. And that will be our home page. Right, so now we have a link on our subpage for our home page. So now if we go back here on the home page, we don't have that link there because we didn't put it in that file. But if we click and go to the judging page, we have this home page here now, and we can click and go back there. Now you could see there that it was on the same line, right? And let me just click that again just so you can see it. It's on the, well, here it's on a different page. And that's because it's smaller. This is a smaller window. But if we go to judging page and look at it here, we can see that the link and that is on the same line. If we want to fix that quickly and easily, we can just wrap that in a paragraph. And that will fix that for us quickly and easily. So now we have a home link here where we can click that, go back to the index page. We can go from the index page to our judging page. We can add another little list here. Since we added an unordered list, let's think of something we can do to create an ordered list here, right? So we can add an ordered list. But before we do that, let's add a little paragraph describing what this list is. So that's a paragraph. Our p tag, judges will be looking for the following criteria. These criteria have been ranked by order of importance. Right? So we have this, ranking by order of importance. And since we're ranking by order of importance, we have some sort of meaning to the order of the list. So we need to use an ordered list here, which is our OL for an ordered list. We'll go ahead and close that before we forget it. Then we'll add our list items in here. So that's a list item. Maybe the first one is scariness. Maybe one is artisticness. That should be a backslash. Amount of pumpkin removed. Brightness of light. Uniqueness. Why not? So now we just have a few little qualifications here. We can run this. We can see it. We click our link here to the judging page. We can see we have our criteria there on that page. We can add an H2 as a subheader here, and we'll call it the judging process. And we'll put a little paragraph here that says, watch the following video to see the judges in action. So now we have that put in there. And we can put our video in here. We'll go back to our Cloudinary. We'll find our video here, which we have. We'll click to drag it in to upload it. We can edit this as well if we want to, right? We can do this. By default, it's 1080p, which is pretty big. I can use this to change the width and height as well. So maybe we want to take it down to 960, just like the heading. So it'll be 960 by 540. And I can just take that and copy that link from there. This is just a little simple video where somebody's taking pictures of a carved pumpkin. It's like 10 seconds long or something like that. No big deal. Right, but we can add it to our site. So we're just going to add our video tag. And remember that when we add our video tag, we need to have a way, unless we're going to use it for some kind of hero image, which we're not here. That's a little too far beyond kind of the scope of this class. We want to add a way for us to control this video. So we need to add our controls Boolean here. And we will close the video. And we will add our source tag, source src equals the link to our video. And we can close that. And we can do a self-closing tag on that one like that. So now if we run this, refresh it here. There's our video. You can see that we have our controls. And we can watch our video in our page. Just like that. Go back to the home page. So this is, kind of everything that we've done kind of in a nutshell, right? Remember that our audio controls were essentially the same thing as our video controls. So we just use audio instead of video, and we put our source in the same type of source tag, whether it's an MP3 or an OGG or whatever we're using there. And so this is kind of the foundation. This is the blueprint for kind of what we're building. And then from here we can take and we can design this and make it prettier and make it nicer. So just as kind of a little preview, so I can send this one out for you as a part of this. I'm going to fork this. I'm going to click fork here and confirm that. We'll call it Halloween Pumpkin Carving -2. We'll confirm that we're forking it, just so I can send you all this copy. And then we can start to add some CSS to it to start making it look nice. And for the time being, what we would be doing is we would be, for the next module, we're just going to be using like width and height and things like that to manipulate different things. So if I want to say take this center part here and actually kind of shrink the size down to be the same size as our header image here, I can do that, right? And so we'll just focus our main selector here. So in our CSS, we can just focus our main. We can give it a width of 960 pixels. And then we can use our little margin trick to center it up, which is going to be margin 0 auto. We'll learn more about what that means next week. But when we do that, we see that we have a little, we've shrunk it down and we've centered it up on our page. That doesn't work, right, with our image here, right? Because we have this image. We can focus the image element and do our little centering trick by saying margin 0 auto. But as we said earlier, this is not a block level element. This is a different type of element. So in order to get our image to work like that, we have to turn it into a block level element, which we'll do by saying display block. And after we've done that, we have that centered up. Right, maybe we want to take and we want to outline this pumpkin carving contest a little bit. That's an H1. So we can make that an H1. We can give it a little bit of padding, like maybe padding of 6 pixels. And we can put a border on it that's like 3 pixels in solid. So we can have a little bit of border around it and a little bit of padding on it so it stands out. Something that we won't kind of cover until module 8 is centering that text, but we can text align center that and have it centered up in the middle of the page there. And now it's actually, now hopefully you're seeing that it's actually starting to look like something. And so since we have the same CSS style sheet applying to our other page, we can click that and we can start to see the other page in action here and how it's looking. The only thing different is our home link there. So with some slight changes, we actually took this really basic, simple site, added a little bit of styling to it, which we'll talk more about next week as we get into the next module. And we've started to make it look like something. Like this looks more like the websites that you see everywhere, right? Like this. So now hopefully you can start to see how we can take the stuff that we're doing here, and just by adding a little bit of changes to it and a little bit of styling to it, we can actually start to make these things look like the things that you would see, on any website. And so that's really all that I have for you for this week. I figured this one would probably be a little shorter, and it is. Right, I just wanted to kind of go through and review all of our markup here. I'll send you the link to the unstyled one, the one that we did before we forked this one, along with the recording of the video for today. We'll hang out in the chat for just a minute, just in case anybody who's here with me live has any questions. But that's all that I have for you for today. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.